To another episode of the I Am Undeniable podcast. I'm your host, Alex Sundar, and what I'm going to be actually talking about today is I'm actually going to be talking about my trip to Houston. I was actually down there for 6 days coaching at PT Domination event. And on top of that, I was actually one of the guest speakers speaking on stage as well. And essentially, I want to just share my experience with you guys. What did I learn? How did I stick on track with my fitness journey? Exactly what I went on stage about, and kind of give you guys an overall perspective on my journey over the last week. So let us begin. Let us dive into it. So for those who don't know, on top of my business, my fitness coaching business, I also do business coaching for a company called PT Domination. And they wanted me to come out, do some in-person coaching for the students, also do a little TED Talk, 10-minute talk on stage as well. And so, booked the flights, got the hotel room at the venue. I don't normally get excited for events until I get there. But I flew out a day before. And when I arrived in Houston, the first thing that happened is my body broke out in rashes. Like I literally got covered on my arm, on my neck. I started getting hives, and I'm like, holy fuck. You guys watch one of my first episodes where I almost died in Kelowna? All I was thinking of, I'm going to die in Houston. Why does this happen? But it's a good thing I got medical insurance, right? So popped myself full of allergy pills. And then we made our way to the event. First things first, I was actually surprised about how the driving is in Houston. Like, no offense to those who listen to this and you guys live in Houston. The driving there fucking sucks. Like, it's brutal. Like 5 or 6 lanes, weaving inside and out. I was car sick as well because the plane had so much turbulence on it. So I get motion sickness. So I was like not doing too good. But we made it to the hotel venue. I checked in, and one of the first things I actually did is I ate food. And honestly, like 10 out of 10, the food there is banging. It is phenomenal food. Probably one of the best places I've actually had in America in terms of food. So got some steak, got some fries, one of the best kind of crunchiest fries ever. And to be honest, like when I came back to Calgary, Canada, all I was thinking about in my head is like, man, the food here sucks compared to the United States. It's just not the same. But I do love Canada. I do love living here. So we checked in. Of course, I was still doing my 60-day challenge at the time, and I got my workout in. We didn't miss. I got in bed probably by like 2 a.m. Because I wanted to make sure I dialed myself in and got everything I could in terms of my workouts and macros. So after that was done, Thursday came around, and that was like the first day before the event. And we actually did what we call a client mixer that night. So from like 5 o'clock until like 8:30, we were at the venue and we were meeting a bunch of the clients there in person. But before that, I was actually helping set up for the event. And actually, what a lot of people actually don't know, they didn't see all the fucking fires that happened at the event. Like, it's funny, like you go to these venues, you go to these events and programs, but you don't really see like behind the scenes and like what's going on. Like we have to set up like every like banner manually. Stuff wasn't working with like the sound system, the video. Even if you guys saw the event on the first day, for those who watched it, there was mic issues, video issues. These are just some of the things that happen behind the scenes that you got to deal with sometimes, especially as a business owner, right? So we did like the client mixer. I met everyone. And one of the things I wanted to be very conscious at events is the way I engage with people. Because I always find that I get really drained super quickly because I give too much of myself. But I wanted to keep a real good balance because I was talking on Saturday. And even though I was only on stage for 10 minutes, I wanted to make sure that 10-minute TED Talk was very, very impactful, like super impactful, right? Because I really cared about the value that these students were getting from that. I want to make sure if you guys, they came up and talked to me, that they really left, like felt and seen, heard, and validated. That's something that I love to work on. That's the kind of person I am. So before the event, like I didn't actually have my speech done. Like they were asking me, like, did you get your speech done? I didn't have it done. But I didn't get it done for a reason. I wanted to talk to the students to kind of gauge the room, right? What questions were people asking? What were they struggling? with what kind of people were in the room. Like we had students there making like zero income per month, anywhere up to over 100K per month. And I want to make sure that my 10-minute talk could tackle each level of income of these fitness coaches and their businesses. I wanted to make sure like every part of that conversation like correlated with each other, right? So when I work with someone, when I coach people, like I want you guys to know, I go all in, like I give a shit, right? I really cared about that 10-minute speech and the importance behind it. So that was Thursday. Friday, we got to go to Alpha Land in the morning and meet up with everyone there. Alpha Land is probably the best gym I've ever been to. Like you walk in there and it's like, it's not like a gym. It's like a whole, like it's multiple buildings put together. Like you walk in there, they got a clothing store. They got like energy drinks, candy on the shelves for the people who train. They got Alpha Eats, which is like a cafeteria and a workstation where you can actually go in and do your work and podcast and do all this sorts of stuff. They even got like an outdoor seating area as well. I actually wish I went to Alpha Land more to work versus doing that at the hotel when I was there. And then in the gym, they got all the best equipment. They got an indoor gym, an indoor cardio section. Then they actually have an outdoor gym with like boxing bags, things to sprint on, tires, tons of stuff. And then they have another outdoor gym on top of that with cardio outside as well. And then you got a basketball court, and then you got a soccer court as well. Honestly, I didn't really take full advantage of Alpha Land while I was there, and I wish I could have filmed content. I did have a content day on the last day, but I was just way too exhausted. So if I ever go back to Houston, I will make sure that I will show up a day or two before and stay a couple days extra to like really let you like absorb Alpha Land and what it has to offer. Because I really felt like I did not take advantage of that while I was out there. So point is being, so after that, we went to the event, and that's where the coaching happened. That's where people were talking and speeches and all this kind of stuff. So on the first day, I'm very particular about like who I want to listen to and who I want to take notes from. When we actually had a guest speaker, her name's Adley. If you don't know who Adley is, search her up on Instagram. You've probably seen her videos on Facebook and Instagram, and she gets like over 1 billion views across her content per month. So, and I've actually have joined one of her programs to learn about social media. So I was very excited to learn about her from her, because like one of my goals right now is to grow to 10,000 Instagram followers across Instagram, right? So, and during that moment when I was like learning from Adley, I'm like taking all these notes. I kind of like in the middle of it, I checked my phone, right? I was like, you know what? I'm going to check my phone. And I'm not sure if you guys believe in like angel numbers or anything. When you see 3 or 4 of the same numbers in a row, it's like a sign, right? It's like a sign that things are coming around. And I had like this sign on my phone that kind of said, hey, look up and look at Adley. And the conversation she was actually talking about on stage is how to be authentic. And she talked about her story on how she was on The Voice, how they took her name from the platform. She has a huge story on how she created content. And her story was very inspiring, very motivating. It was like literally how she reached a super low point in terms of content. She was broke, and then she expressed herself authentically on her content. She didn't think the content was good, but it gained the most views, I think 40 million views overnight. And the reason why that spoke to me is because something I feel like I have trouble with my own personal content is translating my personality, who I am authentically, and my brain into like a 30-second or a minute reel. I can talk about the information. I know how to use marketing. I know how to do social media, but it's like, how can I tie the technicality in it with my own personality? And when she was talking about this talk, like throughout the halfway, she's like, you know what? This wasn't even part of my speech. I didn't even get through 50% of my speech because I felt like something called on me to talk about this. And when she said that, I was like, this speech is for me. Like, you are speaking to me right now. And the first thing I thought of was like, I got to go back to my hotel room and I got to tear up my whole script on what I got to talk tomorrow about at the event. That's like the first thing I thought of. Because I'm like, I'm not speaking my authentic truth at that point. So we got that done. Speech, phenomenal. 10 out of 10. Adley, if you're listening, hell yeah. I probably will see you on the coaching call this week. Right? So that was awesome. So after that, we did a dinner later that night. And I went to the dinner. I actually had to exit out of the dinner early. because I actually have a severe food allergy to like particular food, tree nuts. And in Houston, there are nuts everywhere. I couldn't believe it. And I looked at this event. I'm like, I can't eat. I can't eat. So I left the room. I didn't want to get allergy attack while being in America, while traveling. Went up. Fortunately enough, they actually went back into the kitchen and created me like a private plate to bring up. And I went up. I just kind of chilled out, FaceTime my girl, FaceTime the kids, and then rewrote my script from top to bottom. Pretty much finished it that night. Went to bed, woke up, and that's when we went to the event again. I was actually going to go back down to Alpha Land to meet everyone in the morning to get a group workout in, because with these PT Dom events, we make sure that we get these workouts in the morning before we go to the event. But I didn't show up because I woke up very sick. I was not doing good. I was like feverish, chills. My throat was hurting. And then the first thing I'm thinking about is, man, I got my 10-minute talk that I got to talk about on stage today. So went down to the venue, popped myself full of caffeine, trying to create as much like boundaries as possible with the students, because in my eyes, I'm like, I got to focus. I want to speak on stage. I want my voice to come across as confidently as possible, even though it's 10 minutes. Because there's one thing I didn't tell people, well, like there's so much importance to me behind speaking on stage, because like 6 or 8 months ago, I wrote down on a piece of paper that I'm going to speak on stage at this event. And then 2 weeks before that, I got the call that I'm actually speaking on stage. So to me, it's like, man, I manifested this. This is important to me. Like, I want to like really like kind of like leave an impression. Like, I don't think you guys understand how really important this is. I saw a therapist the week before to talk about me bringing the heat on stage. Like, I give a shit. Like, I want to do well. Like, I want to do well, not just for myself, but for these students. That's what I care about. So I did a lot of prep work. I went to see like a therapist about it, like the therapist that I've been working on. She's like not a normal therapist, like a really specific one. I talked about my fears around it, like who I want to be, all that kind of stuff. So I did a lot of prep work just for that 10 minutes, because like, to be frank, I gave a shit. Like I care about these students. I care about the coaches, the people who run the event, Brian and Cole. Like, I wanted to like leave an impression as a coach, as a speaker. So we kind of like led up to the event, and it was an hour and a half beforehand. There was lunch. I was able to eat lunch. And then I dipped out of there super quickly to go upstairs to like ground myself. I started to meditate. I read out my speech out loud to make sure it was in 10 minutes. I was over by 20. So I had to like remake the script, cut out a whole bunch of things out, talk about it to make sure I can get every point within 10 minutes. And then I grounded myself. Or I wanted to ground myself. I wanted to meditate to make sure I could bring as much focus to the stage as possible. So then it happened. We're there. Got called up on stage. I was speaking after one of my good friends, Janelle Wheel. I grabbed the mic. And the first thing I grabbed was like, am I nervous? Am I this? I didn't think about it. I just spoke on the mic, and I spoke what my notes were about. I tried to take my time with it, and the goal was just to talk. Now, after I talked and I got off stage and all the other speakers went, the first thing I did is I didn't celebrate. I tore myself apart, because I am my biggest critic, like I think many of you are. I tore myself apart from top to bottom. I'm like, you suck. You didn't do a good job. Blah, 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 blah. And the first thing is, like, people were complimenting on the speech. Like Brian, Kirsten, Josh, they were really complimenting on the way I talked. I got like fist bumps. You did an awesome job. But in my heart, I didn't believe it. And I FaceTimed my girlfriend later that night. The first thing she called me was like, you're stupid for thinking that. And it wasn't until like the next day that it kind of really set in that I felt like I did a good job, that I needed to celebrate the win of me speaking on stage. Right. So at the end of it, I felt like I did a good job, and I got a lot of good feedback. A lot of students came up to me, felt like I had one of the most, even though it was 10 minutes, it was the most impactful. I did a really good job. They wish it was longer. So overall, like, the feedback from it was above what I expected. But it's because I had a massive intention of like really just speaking my voice and my how I view business and what these students need to work on. So I'm very happy with the way I did it now that I'm back home, and I cannot wait to do it again. Like, we're coming for it. So that's the second day. Third day, was the last day of the event. It was what we call a mastermind event for like higher level people, higher people making more income in their business. And we got 2 speakers, Brian Mark, my guy, and Trent Harrison. Trent Harrison, dude, you fucking killed it. I love Trent. Like, he's like a modern day superhero. Like, I know his story. I know him personally. Like, dude, you're like a modern day superhero, and like you inspired the shit out of me after your talk. Right. So I just want to give him a shout out. I'm not going to go into details about it on this podcast episode. Like, I'll talk about it on some other episode, but like, modern day fucking superhero, Trent fucking Harrison. Fuck yeah. So got home that night. We went to like a team dinner, and I felt good. I think like this is the first event that I've ever been to. And I've been to lots of events, not just PT Dom events, where I felt 100% authentically myself. I've been working with like a specific coach on how to like overcome my own personal inner self and my traumas so I can bring that more forward. And I felt like I did that. I felt like I left an impression. I felt like I was myself more. And on top of that, I forgot I won an award. I won the most valuable player award as the coach there, which is cool to kind of see people cheer you up as you ran down the aisle. Honestly, I did not want to win the award, but I won it and I will own it. So hell yeah. So there's a lot that happened over those last couple of days. And then we went down to the gym the next day to get a workout in, and I was just burnt down and tired. But overall, it was an awesome couple of days. And I think one of the things that really kind of settled in for me is kind of setting the tone for the future on who I am and what I wanted. Setting the tone on what kind of business owner that I wanted to be, and set the tone on like what kind of man I want to be. It really gave me an idea of like what my new values are going to be. And it gave me a good idea of like who I need to become and who I need to be every single day to grow my business, to impact more people, and to show up better for each and every single one of you. And that's one of the lessons that I want to talk about being back from Houston. You got to buy a seat at the table if you want to grow. You got to buy a seat at the table if you want to get results. Like, I don't understand when people settle for average or mediocrity. It doesn't compute, and it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm here to tell you that you're capable of more. I'm here to tell you that you can accomplish big things. And I'm here to tell you, dude, your next level is around the corner. So thank you guys for tuning in today's episode. I hope you find this episode of me being back from Houston super valuable. Take care. Much love. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.